relationships. And obviously for you, you shared a big part of the journey for you was you got to that point where your wife turned around and said, look, this isn't what I signed up for. And I know that there's many men that will have experienced that, that are listening to this, or men that may experience this, or even women that are listening to this that are on the receiving end, or are the professionally driven women themselves that maybe their partner didn't sign up for it.
Yeah, it's not limited just to men. You know, some career women out there that maybe have the same challenge. You know, in fact, if they got children, they have a different level of guilt attached to it as well, which makes it even harder. You know, because you know. So yeah, I mean, from my experience, it was my wife and I separated for 2 years. You know, now we're living in Prague, and we are in a better place than we've ever been. We still have our challenges. It would be, you know, like you were saying earlier, these life coaches that say they've got it all together, and you know, it's not always the case. You know, we have to work at it. It's a daily practice being in a relationship. But I think that the challenge for anyone that's out there that's that has that mindset of, you know, I'm doing this for the family. I'm working my nuts off here. You know, I'm providing. Has to accept, yes, that's what you're supposed to do, and there's no recognition for it. You know, that's the reality. You know, if you want recognition for it, go and speak to a coach or a friend or something like that. But you know, we have to accept that's our role. You know, if you're going to provide. And so when we are available, we have to be present. And that's the biggest challenge, I think. And I think there's another thing when we spoke specifically on men, and that's where I pay more of my attention, is the men have kind of felt that they've lost what their identity is. You know, they're being challenged by society as to how I'm supposed to show up in a relationship. It's been a massive shift over the last 30 years. You know, even where, you know, parents will say, well, you changed the nappies, you know, you do that. We never did that. Well, yeah, because things have evolved, and we're proud of that as men, that we kind of have this hands-on approach. But there are other things where men feel challenged by who they're supposed to be, and so in some cases, if they are more dominant by nature, they feel a little bit out of control, and that concerns me, because when men lose control, whether it's at work or in the home, they seek control somewhere else. And that can manifest in some really toxic behavior. And that's usually when, you know, things have gone too far in some ways. So relationships, you know, for me, it's a bit like a business in a way. Not one business model fits every business. There are lots of business models. And I think we can have a philosophical conversation about relationships in some ways, because it's the same for relationships. Not every model works. And I think we hook our hat on one model, which is marriage, which is a monogamous relationship. And, you know, that's it. And that can absolutely be the case, but it's how do you have conversations within that when, you know, what can be some of the most intimate relationships, conversations, when you start exploring or challenging the system, a monogamous relationship, you know. And it doesn't mean that you're giving each other permission to have a polyamorous relationship and do what you like and all that kind of, I'm not, but that might be a model for somebody. And there are people that thrive having those types of relationships, and they're okay with it because they have the maturity to have the conversation, and they can do that, and all the best to you. But I think that often, and men sometimes, you know, I feel trapped in this relationship. I feel trapped in it. It's me. Or have you had the conversation with your wife? Because she might be feeling that way too. And it's like, no, my wife's got a wonderful life. You know, I provide for her, and she's got a wonderful relationship. They're not having the conversation for the most part. So relationships for me are, you know, the game changer for us was just, how do you have these conversations? How do you show up as a father outside of the commitment to work? And how does my wife show up outside of the commitment to the kids, because we have that, what you might call a traditional relationship in that sense, you know, the model. And the way I see it, my wife is the CEO of the house, and if you don't look after the CEO, you're out of a job. So that's kind of my internal mindset around it, and that's what works for me. And again, it comes back to what you were saying earlier, you know, whether it's nutrition or whether it's this, everybody's got their own way of living their life, and when you share your life with somebody, then it becomes even more important to communicate and have the conversation and discuss some of these topics. And that's been quite profound for us, I think, is to talk about these things rather than pretending that parents do parents' jobs, mum does mum's jobs, dad does dad's jobs. We do marriage type stuff, which, you know, I think for the most part is the biggest problem, you know. So yeah, I think it's people, relationships are about maturity. And if you can find that level of maturity where you can show some vulnerability and have that open dialogue, then that's when you reach that kind of, and I'm not saying my wife and I have got to that stage, but there is a level, a bit like Maslow, if you like, of enlightened relationships. There's a level of enlightened relationship where you've got that team mentality. It's intimacy is taken a whole different level, not because you're practicing, tantric sex or whatever, but meaningful conversations. You know what I mean? And that might work for some people and might not work for others, but that's where we kind of look at that with sort of the team mentality. And so, but you know, one of the things I talk about is, you know, particularly with leaders, I say, hey, now how do you develop your leadership? What do you do? Well, I go on a course, I learn, I read, you know. So how often are you a leader? Well, I'm leader, you know, during the week. And what about at home? You know, well, I'm the leader at home, but well, what have you learned about yourself when it comes to being a father and a husband? You know, what tools? So when I say something like read love languages, they're like, oh, that's fluffy. You know, I'm not doing that. I'm not reading love languages. That's a load of nonsense. Yet you'll put everyone in your business through a psychometric test and truly understand what their behavior is, or you'll do a diagnostic on all your clients so you can sell to them more effectively. Yet you're not prepared to understand your wife's motivations or your own motivations and try and meet somewhere and have that team mentality. They go, yeah, I hadn't really thought about it from that perspective.
I love that. I mean, I actually get every single one of my clients that I work with, either a group client or one-on-one client, to do love languages. So they actually get it. And then more often than not, I will ask if their wife or partner or husband are up for doing it, or boyfriend, whatever, that they do it as well. And when people do it, their minds are just blown. You can find the full episodes of the Make It Happen with Will Polston podcast here on YouTube, on iTunes, Spotify, and all other major podcast platforms.